2, 3, 4.
Run up your engines! 2003 Toyota Camry, used car for $1,500. Is it worth it? It's a Camry. We can see the headlights have faded. The paint's completely destroyed, probably got hit by hail. The clear coat's coming off. Clear coat's coming off. This thing's been wrecked and repainted who knows how many times, but it still runs. Check out the trunk. Still got a big trunk. Smells a little bit moldy. Not particularly leaking. It's got a full-size spare. It's a big plus. Big deep trunk. Not all smashed in, so wherever it was wrecked, it wasn't rear-ended. Look inside, it's a plain Jane Camry. Low end. Got the cloth seats. See how many miles it has on it. It's got 216,000 miles. And we started up. Starts right up like a Camry, but the check engine light's on, so we're gonna have to check that. But the power seats still work, they go back. So plugging the out scan tool, check it out. Great scan tool. And while we're waiting on a scan tool, we'll check the windows. See if they all roll up and down. That works. That works. That works. Power door locks. Well, 3 out of 4 worked. Driver's one you're gonna have to do manually. Well, that's life. But the old scan tool will do its job. Oh, the AC still blows nice and cool, and it's not even on recirc. We'll put it on recirc, it'll get even colder. Diagnosis. Okay, it's got 2 codes on the engine. All the others are okay, so we'll see what those babies are. Trouble codes. RPO 420, catalyst efficiency bank number 1. So car's got over 200,000 miles on it. Odds are the cat's worn out. That shows that it's inefficient. You can try my video, how to fix a catalytic converter using a little lacquer thinner. You could try that. It runs really good, so it's one of those things that you need to get it inspected. You're gonna have to fix it. If you don't, you can live with it. As you can see here, it doesn't have an inspection sticker, so obviously someone probably tried but couldn't get it inspected. But that's not a deal breaker. I'm gonna look at all the data to see whether that is deal breakers or not. We're gonna go to live data. Gives a lot of information. Mass airflow sensor isn't bad. Got no history of misfires, they're all 0. That's excellent. Fuel trim is 1.044. That's not bad. 1.000 is perfect. So for an old car, that's not bad. We're going to look at the oxygen sensor, bank 1, sensor 2, and bank 1, sensor 1. We'll graph them. They're much more interesting graphed. There's a graph, and that's the one after the catalytic converter. And here's the one before the catalytic converter. It's supposed to be moving a lot more than that. Basically, as simple as replacing the front oxygen sensor, just bolts on and off. That could fix the whole thing. It might need a catalytic converter, it might not. Doesn't run bad. So this isn't a bad car. For 1,500 bucks, it isn't much money. But we're gonna road test it. And it does the usual. You turn the steering wheel. They often do that. The plastic gets worn, but it's not a deal breaker. It's just kind of funny. And it rides like an old Camry. Still goes decent, but the struts are all worn out. Watch. You can see it bounces up and down a lot. There goes a little squeak. They all do that. I mean, you can put 4 struts on it, but you don't need to spend $1,000 on quality stuff right off the bat. It still goes okay. Now, this only has a 4-cylinder engine, but still, you step on the gas. It can move. It's not a turd mobile. These 4-cylinder engines can last a long time. As you see, it bounces a lot because the struts are worn out. Well, what do you expect on an old car? It still handles good enough. Still corners decently. The power steering works fine. And when you have to brake, hey, the brakes work perfectly fine. The transmission still shifts smoothly after all these years. Still has the Toyota factory CD that's still in operation. Not sure the paint looks like crap, but what the heck, it's a $1,500 car. Let's look under the hood. Well, the strut still holds it up. And we look under the hood. It's got a solid 4-cylinder engine in it. This is the 2.4 liter. The ones before they had any problem. The later ones burn a little bit of oil. These engines don't. This is one solid engine. Linked to a totally solid transmission that, sure, not fantastic gas mileage, but they run forever. This thing's got all those miles, 200,000 plus. Still shifts like a dream. For 1,500 bucks, this car can still last quite some time. Now, if you want to make it legal for inspection, I'd advise, like I said, change the front oxygen sensor. Easy job. That could fix the whole thing. But if that doesn't, along with a little cleaner for the catalytic converter, this is an older one. You can buy a universal catalytic converter and bolt it on this. They work perfectly fine. The newer ones, they're much more vehicle specific. This older one, no, you can buy universal ones. I bought $140 cats, put them on these things. They work perfectly fine. And even though it's an older engine, timing chain. Look, you don't see all that plastic crap. All this stuff is metal. One solid engine. And sure, it's old. The paint's all fading away on it, but it still runs pretty good. For 1,500 bucks, I've seen some of these things go 500,000 miles. Original engine, original tranny. Some of them even the original AC. This still has the original AC and it still blows freezing cold. Nice solid wheels. Now, of course, those look nice. Well, the hood not so nice, but you're not buying this for cosmetic reasons. You're looking for a work car, or maybe first car for a kid in high school. He might not like the way it works. Well, that's motivation. So he can get a job and get it all painted up if he wants to do that. So now you know the truth about this old Camry and why for 1,500 bucks, it's a decent car. And here's some bonus questions and answers. Mr. Grumpy says, I'm looking for a good used car. What do you think of Craigslist versus dealers? Car dealers sell cars for a living. They're pros. You're never going to get a fantastic deal from those guys. They know what cars are worth, and they're trying to pump them. They generally try to sell them to 2 to 3, 4 times what they paid for the cars. Craigslist is a good place to look for cars because you can put in how many miles away from your house you want to look, what kind of cars. They got a good computer set up, right? But always buying a used car is a royal pain most of the time anyways to find a good one. That's just life. Because it's Craigslist. It's open-ended. There's a lot of lying and cheating on that. I've had customers, they go to Craigslist, they say, oh, this guy's selling a car. They bring it to me and I say, that's not that guy's car. Get the title out. And the guy said, oh, I don't have the title, la, la, la. I said, well, don't buy it if they don't have the title to show you. A lot of times, the Craigslist, a guy is working secretly for a used car lot. They'll say it's their car, but they'll meet you at the Denny's parking lot, right? Because what they did was they drove from their house or office to the used car lot, picked up the car, and brought it to you. A lot of them are scams. A lot of them are selling for other people. If it's an actual person at their house, you see the title, it's in their name, great. That's a great way to buy a car. But you really got to put on your thinking cap when you buy a used car because people have so many sleazy deals going out there. And like I say, not only do you want to make sure they own the car, but you always got to see the title because if it says reconditioned, salvage title, it means it was wrecked by an insurance company, totaled, and then somebody's trying to sell it on to you. Don't ever buy a car like that. Unless, let's say it was a hail damaged car and it's got dimples everywhere and you don't care that the car's all dimpled and you want a good transportation car to go to work and you don't care it's got a bunch of dings, go ahead. But other than that, you don't want to buy a salvage title car. There's too many problems with them unless it's purely cosmetic. You got a car, say it's worth $4 grand. A hailstorm smashes it all up. It costs more than that to fix it. Yeah, go ahead. It could run forever if you don't mind driving a dimple mobile down the street. Anime Trucker says, I got a 26-year-old Suburban. The AC doesn't work, and it's got 303,000 miles. I replaced the compressor 2 years ago, and now it's lost everything and has no refrigerant, zero pressure on both sides. If it's leaking in the rear, can I bypass it? They actually make bypass kits for those Suburbans. You know, you got big old lines going back to the rear one. All you got to do is buy the bypass kit for the hoses, and you just bypass it by connecting the hoses, and then it just recirculates without going to the back. If you don't want to spend all that money and it's leaking going to the back, go right ahead. You can buy the bypass kit, comes with the hose and everything you need, and then just bypass it and then refill the system and away you go. You got something that old, it's 26 years old, there's no sense in going all through that trying to find the leaks. I've had people try that. Man, it's just all that from the front to the back, all those lines and the back evaporator. If the front's okay and somebody's got a leak sniffing machine, there's no leak smelling in the front, just bypass it. They make kits for it. They're not all that expensive. Hicker1211 says, how often should I change my oil? I don't drive much. I drive like 3,000 miles a year. Can I change it just once a year? Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. If you don't drive your car much, change it once a year. Even if you drive 1,500, change it once a year. Now, if you use normal oil these days, you can change your car's oil every 5,000 miles or so. If you got synthetic oil, you could push it to 7. But either way, no matter what you use, synthetic, partially synthetic, full synthetic, you got to change it once a year. So you're perfectly safe changing your oil once a year if you only drive like 3,000 miles a year. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.